time.
All right, Megan Fitzpatrick for us in Washington. Thank you, Megan. And certainly a somber time at that game, certainly a somber moment right across the city. And so now I want to turn to JP Morrell, who is a council member and a vice president of New Orleans City Council, joining us this morning in the city. Thank you very much for being on the program, sir.
Well, thank you for having me.
This is just such a horrible tragedy when you think about 15 people have been killed. We've been seeing some of the coverage coming out, how many of the people who were there and who are among the victims here are locals as well to that area. How has all of this been hitting you over the last 24 hours?
Well, it's heartbreaking. We are a city that's renowned for our food festivals and culture. We're an inclusive place where people come to celebrate being who they are, and they bring their friends and families and loved ones. And on a New Year's Day 2025, to have something this horrific happen and shatter that thing which makes this city so special, it's just really shaking our community to its core.
Well, and the initial incident was just so terrifying and terrible, but then the authorities were very quick to put out the fact that they're concerned that there could be multiple people involved, and they are certainly looking into multiple avenues on that front. Hearing the initial incident had happened and then that there was the concern that multiple people could have been involved in this, what were those moments like?
Well, I mean, obviously in the moment, because this is a very fluid situation, so it's always constantly updating. Obviously, after the first initial incident, it was terrifying. As the FBI took over the case, as they've been working with local law enforcement, as they found the additional devices that were safely rendered inert, I mean, it's been a tremendous cascade of different parts of information, and information's being updated currently at a record rate. So we're processing everything right now. As a city official, we're focused on taking care of the families of those who were injured, those who were killed. We've worked with our partners at the Greater New Orleans Foundation to set up a fund similar to the Boston Marathon for the victims, those people impacted by this tragedy. And our primary focus is on making the city safe going forward. And those reports were troubling, and we continue to wait for additional updates and briefings from state and federal law enforcement on what's going on with the case.
Well, and when we talk about keeping the city safe and Bourbon Street safe, we know that there's typically those bollards that kind of pop up and protect from vehicles coming through the crowds there. We know that in this case, those had been taken down for kind of some repairs or some replacement work that was going to be done for the Super Bowl, which is coming up next month. How big of a factor do you think that was in the fact that this person was able to get around the cruiser that was there at the top of Bourbon Street?
Well, it's very troubling. The fact the bollards weren't up or available is something that was very concerning, and it's something that the city council is going to look into and give a lot of resources to find out why that occurred, what was the timeline when it was known, and what accommodations were made. Obviously, there was a cruiser up top of the street, but there's a lot of unanswered questions with what happened and how it was allowed to happen. And we're going to get into that at the appropriate time and with some real transparency and specificity. But right now, the primary focus is making sure that the French Quarter and Central Business District are secure and safe for people for the Sugar Bowl. Mm-hmm. I am cautioning everyone out there who intends to come to the game. This is sort of like the airport pre and post 9/11. If you are planning on coming to the game, you need to account for the additional time necessary to clear through checkpoints to get into the game and to get into the secured area, because we are trying to make everyone safe in the aftermath of this event. And everyone will be safe. We have a variety of resources locally from surrounding parishes throughout the state of Louisiana and from the federal government. We are going to be safe and secure, but I do want to express to the public and visitors, the city is secure, but it's going to require additional time and patience in the wake of this to get where you're going.
Well, and the governor says that he is going to be going as a way of showing some defiance in the fact that New Orleans can move forward after a tragedy like this. Are you planning on going to the Sugar Bowl yourself?
I'm not planning on going just because I'm still dealing with a lot of situations like this, a lot of press requests and the like. The council president's going, the mayor's going. I believe a lot of elected officials are going. And to be clear, I support all of that because the purpose of terrorist attacks is to make people cower in fear and not do what they would normally do. And I applaud the governor, everyone else for going to the game and doing things despite that. The city standing up and being resilient in the face of it, just like Boston, just like New York, because if you don't do that, the terrorists win. Because what they want everyone to do is to cower in their homes and change their behavior and change how they view life and society. And we will not allow that to happen in this city or any other city in the United States.
All right, JP. Well, thank you very much for joining us at what I know is a very difficult time for you and for your community as well, but nice to see that people are pulling together and starting that fund that you mentioned as well. JP Morrell is a council member for New Orleans, and he's joining us today in the city as well. And I have a bit of breaking news for you this morning. We just found out that the FBI is going to be holding an update at 11 o'clock, and we're going to be getting some more details, ideally from the FBI investigation. Obviously, they are the lead of the investigation that continues to go on. The latest that we had heard was that multiple people were involved in this, but as Megan Fitzpatrick has been reporting through the morning, they've given very little detail around what has led them to say that. So we'll look to that press conference that's happening at 11 o'clock from the FBI to see about those new details, as well as we know that there are search warrants that are going on at multiple locations across the United States. Stick with us here on CBC News Network as we see what that update is at 11 o'clock and then digest it together here on the program as well. Meantime, investigators are also looking for ties between the New Orleans attacker and the suspect in that blast outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas on New Year's Day. And we have video from Colorado Springs, Colorado, where federal investigators were reportedly searching the home of the Las Vegas suspect. He was killed in the blast, and authorities are not releasing his name yet, but U.S. media outlets sure are. They are also reporting new details about him as well. And we have new video into us showing the vehicle being taken from the scene in Las Vegas late last night. U.S. media outlets say the Las Vegas suspect was also in the U.S. military and that he reportedly served in Afghanistan around the same time as the New Orleans attacker. Las Vegas police say the cyber truck was loaded with fireworks and camp fuel canisters, and the suspect rented it from the same online site that the New Orleans attacker used to rent his truck. Steve Futterman has all those details and more. Steve.
This morning we are learning a lot.